down south of Weston when my dad first came here. He was working as what's called Weston glass. Well, at, at the north end of Weston glass was this great big three-story building, and that's where Cataract Sharpe was because the glass was right there, and they had an opening into the factory, the glass factory, and they bring in glass in there. Which glass, Cataract Sharpe was the cutting shops, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 1934, the Weston glass burned down. I mean, in the middle of the night, it just caught on fire. Of course, back at that time, glassware was shipped in barrels.
Okay.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
they wasn't using boxes
Wooden
yet.
barrels.
Yeah, barrels and straw, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess the fire started in the packing end of that glass factory. And unfortunately, that section of the factory was right next to Cataract Sharpe.
Okay.
Well, and just outside of Cataract Sharpe was this great big gasoline storage place. These great big tanks holding 200,000 gallons of gasoline.
Whoa.
Then right almost next door. Boy, we had a dinky little old fire department here in Weston, you know. And how they saved that building, that thing from not catching on fire, I don't know. But they did, yeah.
Amazing.
But Cataract Sharpe, of course, just burned down to the ground. The foundation's still there.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yes.
So it never rebuilt?
They never rebuilt.
No,
I think they moved somewhere else. Yeah. Yeah.
So did you make molds? No, you wouldn't. It's a glass
No.
cutting. Yeah, of
No,
course.
they bought the glass
they
from
bought.
the molds we made, but in
Right.
the various different glass factories around.
In
Probably Louis glass and the West Virginia glass. You know, it's like I say, the West
Right.
Virginia glass, Western glass, moved into that old plate glass factory.
right,
The tanks were there and everything, you know.
right.
So they moved in there soon after the Western glass burned down.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Somebody told me that the molds were actually shared amongst a number of the factories because did one person own several different factories so that they
well,
would
yes,
share?
that was especially true of the West Virginia glass and the Louis glass.
Right.
Two of my uncles were foremen or general managers. Uncle Steve was in the general manager, floor manager in the Louis glass. Uncle John was the manager of the West Virginia glass.
Okay.
Of course, at one time while I was in high school, I got to riding around with the truck driver from the West Virginia glass, and I saw all this happening. You know, yeah, because probably once a day he would take some molds from the West Virginia glass and we'd run them out to the Louis glass. You know, back and forth like that. Yeah.
So it would be hard to tell where one piece was made. It could have been either of the factories.
This is true.
Then, or,
This is true. Yeah.
And did that
yeah.
happen with some of the other factories as well? Or?
No, not that I know.
No? Okay.
Of course, there was another factory here below town, Colonial Glass, and the boss of that factory was a pretty shrewd gentleman. I figure he probably was able to get himself in between these uncles and such, you know, and they were all friends, you know. Hey,
Sure.
people worked at this factory, and if he got fired or he got dissatisfied with something, he'd go to work to the other factory, you know. People were just constantly jumping from factory to factory, you know. Yeah,
Right.
most of them had worked at all of them. Yeah. But there was, well, the old Western glass And when that factory burned down, about a week later, after everything had cooled down and everything, well, the whole neighborhood was down in there scraping up, digging around, digging out old pieces of glass, you know. I still got a few pieces at home from that factory. Yeah.
Wow.
They were a factory that was making a lot of colored glass.
For tableware?
Reds and the blues and the cobalts, you know, and the ruby and all that. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But
so what were the names of some of the other factories? Do you remember?
well, I guess of course Louis Glass, the West Virginia Glass, the Colonial Glass. Further north was Lewis County Glass.
Okay.
Over next to Pennsboro was the Pennsboro Glass. Another big factory over there, Mid-Atlantic Glass. Yeah.
Okay.
They were the nearest around here. Yeah.
And did they all make similar type of glassware, or
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah.
Making a lot of tableware?
Yeah. Down next to Charleston was Scott Glass, and down there another one was Culloden Glass. Yeah, which is the name of the town, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were the nearest around here. Of course, up in Morgantown was Davis Lynch. It was a big factory.
Was it?
Oh yeah, yeah, big factory. Yeah, we were lucky to start making molds for them, because there was a mold shop there.
Oh, was there?
Yeah, but he was the guy, and he tried to do it all by himself, but he just couldn't keep up, you know. So all of a sudden we got to make molds for that factory too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then there was another one down there.
You're probably thinking about Seneca Glass.
It said right. They both said right along the river down there, Monongahela River. Yeah.
Seneca made a lot of stemware, didn't it?
Yes, they did.
Seneca?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you make molds for stemware?
Yes, it did. Oh,
did
yeah.
you? Wow, that'd be intricate.
Yeah. Oh, we made molds for stemware and punchware and whatever, you know.
Yeah, anything and everything.
Jugs, whatever, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And then, of course, on down in Huntington, just beyond Charleston, was Pilgrim Glass. That was a big, well-known glass factory down there, you know. I made molds for that. We made molds for that factory for 30 years before I ever met the boss. We just worked between me and the intermediaries, you know. Yeah.
So there really were not a lot of mold makers around then.
Pardon me?
There were not really a lot of mold makers around.
No.
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 Because that would take a real
Our
talent.
shop was the only independent shop, and if one of the factories had a mold shop, then they ordinarily didn't make the molds themselves, but they were able to keep their molds going, you know, repair them or whatever, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So they still had to go out to an independent mold maker to get the originals made.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. Well, this mold was what they call a dump mold. And actually it's a mold for what they call a puff box, which would be a powder box, you know.
Yep.
Now, in use, they cut off a gobble glass and put it down in here, and then they had a plunger that they punched down in there, and that'd make that cavity in that puff box.
Right.
Then all they had to do was pull it out to the end of the bench like that, and turn it over. There'd be a guy there to catch it, dump it out. Yeah, it was very efficient. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's about as close as we come to making machine molds around here.
Right. Now, which glass factory wanted that particular mold? What glass factory did you make that mold for?
This was for colonial glass.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And has that got wooden handles on it?
Yes, it does have.
Okay.
Because you know, you can grab it either
Right.
way.
Right.
And
It wouldn't.
you know, because you got to remember, it's a
It might
fast
hot.
process, you know.
Right.
And hey, in the factories, it was all piecework.
Mm-hmm.
The more pieces you made during the day, the more you got paid, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
that's why it's got two handles on it.
Right.
You could go fast, you know, whatever. Or if one switched to the other side of the bench or something, or it got out of shape or something,
Right.
you just grab it and go, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how many glass factories are there left in this area now?
Just one.
Okay.
Just one. All of them are just all gone, you know. Yeah.
And why do you think they disappeared?
Well, too much competition from overseas. They always raised the dickens. All these factories around here was upset because all this stuff was especially from Europe, you know,
Right.
and they made good glassware.
Yeah. Yeah. You couldn't compete
And
with
they
the
were
price.
we were always after the government to stop that incoming glass, you know, but
Mhm.
of course they couldn't do that.
Okay.
So
No, it's unfortunate.
unfortunately, it was just too much, you know,
Yeah.
and the orders went overseas, either to Europe or China, you know,
Because they could get it cheaper.
get
Yeah.
it cheaper, sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
that-
one of the things that I hated along about 1980. I had developed what they called a burn-off machine, where you take the glass out of the mold and crack it off the blowpipe, and mount it in this machine and lower that piece of glass. And I had burners rotating around, constantly going.
Mhm.
So it was a real sharp little flame. And they just cut the top right off of that glass while it was still hot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So then from there it went in through the layers, the cooling ovens, you
Right.
know.
Yep.
And then down the other end it was ready to ship out. There was no separate processes of cracking it off back there in
Right.
the finishing room.
Right, you could do it with
And
foam.
grinding it and reglazing it, you know.
Hmm.
It's all done right there on the shop when the mold
And
when it
that-
come out of the mold. Yeah.
And that was right near the 1980s.
Yeah,
when
and
they-
I had a big shop that made mostly shades, and he ordered several of those. He had a factory down in Texas making these glassware. And all of a sudden he gets on the phone, and he ordered another burn-off machine. Okay, we made it for him. He says, I'll let you know where to ship it after you get done. So I got done, I called him up and said, where do you want to send? He said, I want you to send it to China. I don't want to do that.
For goodness
He said, don't you worry, but I said, I've got no way to ship anything to China. He said, don't you worry. He said, you send it to this place out in California, and they'll transship it.
I'll be darned. Wow.
So things like that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was,
I'll be darned.
yeah, it was just something that I had developed, and I made a lot of those machines
Mm-hmm.
for the factories around here, you know.
Right.
They used them on almost all the shops that was possible, you know.
Wow.
So no doubt that machine was copied all over China, and that